What's up everybody, welcome back. In today's video I want to take a look at setting up the Advanced Sessions plugin for Steam. So recently with 5.2 it looked like the original plugin wasn't really working anymore. I haven't tried myself to be honest, but we're gonna just upgrade to the Advanced Sessions. So that way we can have a friends list, send invites, joining friends, make lobbies with a password, friends only lobbies, so stuff like that. So originally I didn't really want to use a third-party plugin, but this Advanced Sessions plugin does look like the most easy option to go with if you are doing blueprints. And to be honest, this plugin has been in development for 8 years and it's still being updated, so I guess it's pretty safe to use this plugin. It's probably not going to be dropped anytime soon, so we're just going to use this and cross our fingers that it's going to receive updates and still be in development. So yeah, that was the little intro. Let's start setting everything up. So first of all, if you have the original plugin installed, you want to remove that. So you want to go to the folder where your project is and simply remove the plugin from the plugins folder in there, and probably restart the project one time before actually making other changes. So the plugin is actually removed. Then we're going to download the Advanced Sessions plugin. So I'm going to link this in the description of the video. You can get it on GitHub over here. You'll end up on this page. And if you click the code button over here, all the way down, download the zip file. So just get this file. And that's all you really need to do in here. You can check out this guy's Patreon, obviously, and leave a small donation or just mention that you're grateful for his work. Obviously, he's doing great work, keeping this up for 8 years already. So yeah, freaking awesome. So make sure that you get the files over there, and then you want to make sure you close the project as well. So that's the working project. In the launcher, I'm going to right click and show the project in the folder. So I will end up in my project folder on my hard drive. Let's get rid of the launcher over here. So we want to go to the root folder of the project where the uproject file is. So that's where we currently are. And in here, I'm going to create a new folder and call this plugins and open that folder up. So then we're going to go to the downloaded file. And you want to extract that, so simply right click it and then extract it. So that should be somewhere in this list depending on what Windows version you're using. And if you extracted it, you can go into the folder, and these are the two plugin folders that we need. So we're going to grab the Advanced Sessions and the Steam Sessions. You need both of them. If you only install the Steam Sessions, it won't work. So simply copy them and then paste them into the plugins folder for your project. And that should be all you need to do. So next we want to go into the config folder and open up our DefaultEngine.ini. And in here we need to make a few changes. So we actually need to add a few lines. I'm going to paste these in the description of the video as well, so you can copy and paste them. So you simply want to open the DefaultEngine.ini and then paste in this stuff over here. So that's all you need. And again, I'm going to paste this in the description of the video, so you can simply copy and paste it and you don't need to worry about any spelling errors. So in the DefaultEngine.ini, put this in and save it, and that should be all. So we don't need to make any changes to target or build CS files, and we also don't need any C++ in the project. So that might be a requirement later if you want to set up the Steam SDK a little bit further and actually integrate everything into the project. But right now, if you simply want to get the Advanced Sessions to work, this is all you need to do. So right now we can launch the project, and for this part you need Visual Studio installed. So it will ask you to rebuild the modules and simply click yes. So this will take a minute or two, and it doesn't seem like anything is happening. It's not giving you a pop-up with a progress window or something, but it is actually rebuilding in the background, so just be a little bit patient, and then after a minute or two it should start loading your project. So my project is running. If you want to double check if everything worked, you can go to Edit Plugins, and then right at the top on the left side under the project, you should see the Advanced Sessions plugin, and both of them should be enabled. So make sure this is in there, and then you should be good to go. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that we update the create and the find session nodes. A little side note, by the way, we still are dealing with the same restrictions that we had before with the original Steam plugin. So we need to make sure that we are actually running the game on 2 different Steam accounts on 2 different computers if we want to test it. The app ID that we are using from Steam, the 480 from Spacebars, that's region locked. So you need to make sure that if you want to connect over Steam to a friend, you both have the same download region set in the settings for Steam. And this will only work for developer builds, and that's also because we're using the developer app ID from Steam. So these restrictions are not because of the plugin, it's because the restrictions that Steam added to the developer app ID. So make sure you keep that in mind if you want to connect on Steam. So we're going to open up the game instance, and in here we want to replace our create session node. So let's look for the create multiplayer session over here. And we're going to get rid of this node and replace it with a new advanced one. So we need a little bit more room over here. So let me just move this over here. And we're going to right click, and this time we can create an advanced session. So let's just look for create, and over here we have the new node. So select this one, and you will see a ton of extra options over here. So first of all, let's move over the pins. So failure and success, we hook up the player controller and our LAN boolean, and that should be good to go. So we can get rid of the old one, and we don't really need to set anything up in here. I'm going to lower the connections, but do whatever you like. So the default settings should be fine for a listen server, so you don't need to change anything in there. There is one thing we need to do if we want to make sure we can also use this for local area network, and that's make sure our option string over here has a boolean enabled if we actually play a local area network game. So over here, if you hover over the setting, it will tell you we need the option bIsLanMatch, and we need to enable that. So what we're going to do over here, for the OpenLevel node, drag off the options, and we're going to select a string. And that's actually not the one that I want. Oh, well, that works. So select a string, and then for the pick A, we're going to plug in our isLanConnection boolean. So that should be in here somewhere. So if this is true, it will pick string A, and if this is false, it will pick string B. So we want to make sure that for both of them, we enable the listen server option. So we're going to add a question mark and then type listen. And so this is all we need for multiplayer. And we also need that for the local area multiplayer. And then what we're going to do for the A option is add another question mark and then type the boolean. So bIsLanMatch enabled. Or bIsLanMatch, sorry, and then we want to do an equal 1, so we set it to 1, so it's actually true. So I'm gonna paste this in the description of the video as well, so you can copy and paste it, but if you hover over the setting here, you can make sure you get the spelling correctly as well. So this should make local area network as well, and this should be good to go. Then we want to go into our widgets folder and open our MP menu, so the multiplayer one, and in here we have the find session node that we want to replace. So if we go to the search game function over here, find sessions, and again we can simply replace it with the new advanced one. So let's do find session. And over here we have find session advanced. And by the way, just a little side note, if you drag off the owning player and then do find session, it will give you the world context pin and you don't really need it. So the best thing you can do is just right click and do find session over here. and then select the advanced one, and then the world context pin will not be available. So we can simply plug in the player controller, the len boolean, and make sure we pass on the results and move over the pins. So get rid of the 0 for the maximum results, obviously, and then that should be good to go as well. So right now we should have a working advanced sessions plugin, and we should be able to test it, but then we have to package everything. And first of all, I want to make a few other changes before we actually test it. So let me try to explain what I want to do. Currently we are simply loading profiles defined by a name that we are typing in ourselves. But now we are connected to Steam with some extra functionalities. We can actually get our Steam name and stuff like that. So what I want to do is change this. So if we load the game and we are connected to Steam, it will automatically create a profile for that name, or simply load that profile. And then we are still able to create different save slots, but we can only select the ones that belong to our Steam profile. And if it happens that we are not connected to Steam, we can simply select what profile we want to use and play on that profile offline. So that's what we're going to set up in this video. And then in the next video, we're going to take a look at the friends list and joining and invites and all of that kind of stuff. So first of all, let's set up the profile and the Steam name stuff. What we want to do is go to the saved data, and we want to make a change to the player profile structure. So we're going to change the struct, make sure that the entire project is saved first, and we're going to open up the structure. So in here we want to add two variables. The first one is the net ID. So this is the ID that Steam gives us, and this is a unique ID that we can use to identify players. So this is a string. And the second thing we want to do is add the SaveGame name. So let's add a second variable, and that's the SaveGame name. And this is a text variable. And this is all we need. So we're going to save the structure and only the structure. Then we're going to close down the project and don't save any of the other references. So don't save them. And reload the project, so everything should still work. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, project is back up and running. First thing, we want to go into the framework folder and open our shooter game instance. So we made a change to the player profile structure, so that means it will also change how the create new profile is working. And we also want to change how the names in here work a little bit. So we're going to go to the create new profile function, and we're going to disconnect it over here, make a little bit of room. The first thing we want to do is get the name from our Steam account. So what we can do is simply get our player controller. And from our player controller, we can drag off and get the unique net ID. So get this one. This is assigned by Steam to the player controller. So you do want to make sure that Steam is connected. If you call this when you are not connected to Steam, it will still return an ID, but it's not a unique Steam ID. So there's a difference there. So this will only work if you are actually connected to Steam. So this unique net ID, we can use it to get our Steam name. So we can drag off here and get the persona name, Steam persona name. And that's the first thing we want to do here. So make sure you get the name. And we're going to convert that into a text variable. And this is the name that we're going to plug into the player profile player name over here. So the first variable in here. So we can simply drag it on here. So that will assign the name of our Steam account to the profile in-game automatically. What we want to do next is get this unique net ID, and we want to convert it into a string. So drag off here and look for string. So this will convert it, unique net ID to string. So that way we can save it in the player profile structure as well in the new variable that we created. So hook it up there. And for the SaveGame name, we're actually going to use the name that we typed in the menu. So that's been passed into the event. We can simply grab it over here and hook it up to the SaveGame name, and that should work. So that's the new setup for naming our save games and our profile. Let me see what we're going to do next. We're going to create a small event that we can call when the game starts, so we can handle connecting to Steam and setting a few variables. So let's go to an empty place in the event graph, and we're going to create a custom event. And I'm going to call this something like game start. Nope. And we also want to add a boolean to our variables. So we're going to create a new boolean, and let's call this is Steam connected. And I also want to store the unique net ID that we were using in the previous function in a variable over here. So we're going to create a second variable, and that's our unique net ID. And that's going to be a string, like so. So when the game starts, we want to get our login status, and we can get the local Steam ID from Steam. So we want to right click and get local Steam ID from Steam. Use this one. So you need to make sure you use this node to determine if we are logged in. So as I mentioned, if we use the get unique net ID that I used over here, this will still return something, and you will be logged in somehow, although you are not. So that doesn't work. So you need to make sure that you get it off Steam, and if it's not connected, it won't return anything. So from here, we can get our login status, hook it up over here, and then we can grab the correct execution pin. So we're going to drag off the login status and make a switch on it. So we want to connect this one to the on success pin. And then if we are actually logged in, so the lower pin, then we're going to set our unique net ID. So we're going to drag that one in, and we can get it over here. So we can simply drag off this again and do unique net ID to string, and then plug that in over here. And then we can set our is Steam connected boolean and set it to true. Then let's make sure that if we are not logged in, that we set it to false. So we're going to plug it in over here to the other branches. It should be false by default, but you never know. So connect it to the on failure pin, not logged in, or to the using local profile. Then we are not connected to Steam, and you could add a little print or something, or even a pop-up in the main menu that tells you you're not connected. So I'm saying not connected to Steam, loading active profile failed. And after we did that, we want to call our UI show main menu function, and we simply have that over here. So we're going to drag it in, call UI show main menu for both of the branches. So this is going to be the function that's called when we start the game, and currently we are only calling our UI show main menu, so we need to change that. So let's do that first. Let's minimize this, and we're going to go to the level blueprint for the main menu level. So OpenLevel blueprint, and in here we're calling the UI show main menu. So we want to get rid of this one and then call our new game start event that we just created. And that should be good to go. So we can compile and save the level blueprint and get that one out of the way. Then we're back in the game instance, and in here we need to make a few more small changes. So first of all, we want to go to the check for saved profile function over here, open it up, and what we're gonna do in here, let's see, so we have this upper branch where we load a current profile and then store it in the save game on our game instance, and set the active profile. So this is the branch where we actually load our active profile, and in the other branches we load the remaining profiles, so not the currently selected one. And what we want to do in here is disconnect this load profile, and we want to make sure that this is valid. So we're going to drag off here and do an is valid check, plug it in over here. So if it's valid, we can continue like we used to, and make sure you actually have this hooked up so it sets the save game player profile. And if it's not valid, then we're gonna go to the branch below here and call our load game from slot like so. So we're still going to load the profile, but we're not going to set it as an active one. And this will make sure that we don't assign an active net ID if we are not logged in. So make sure you add this is valid node over here. And after that, you want to go into the load profile function over here and make a small change. So right before we set the profile, I'm going to make some room. And we want to add a branch in here. So let's grab our player profile structure and we're going to break it. And simply compare the unique net ID from this profile. And then we're going to do 3 equals. So we want an equal exactly. And then we can plug in our own unique net ID and hook it up to the branch. So we're simply checking if this is a save game that belongs to this profile or not. So if this is true, we're going to plug it in over here and simply return it. If this is false, we're going to grab a second branch and we're going to check if we are connected with Steam. Plug it in over here, our is Steam connected boolean. And if we are not connected to Steam, we're still going to return the profile so we can play offline and we can select what profile we want to use. So for the false pin, connect it back up to the upper branch. And if we are connected to Steam and this is not our save game, then we don't want to add it. So we can simply use a return node and don't plug in the save game player profile. So this will trigger this node being not valid and then loading the game in the list, but disabling it. Okay, so that should be good. The last thing is the load all profiles function in here. And we need to make sure that we grab this setter and get rid of it. So this logic doesn't really apply anymore. If the player profile slot is empty, the profile is not selected. So we need to make sure we get rid of it. We're actually setting the profile selected boolean over here. Over here if we need to, so we don't need to worry about that. So make sure in the load all profiles we get rid of the setter and that should be good. Okay, so that should be the game instance and we already did the level blueprint for the main menu map. So now we want to make some changes in a few widgets and then we should be good to go. So let's go to our widgets folder and first of all I want to look at the profile info widget. So let's open this one. In here I want to add the name for the Steam profile so we can see the save game name and the Steam profile name at once. So I'm just going to grab the text player name and duplicate it. And this is going to be the text save game name. Why not? So save game name. And then we want to go into the graph and make sure that we set up some default stuff. So in event construct, let's move to the right a little bit. And over here we have 2 different branches, if it's an empty slot or if it's actually populated. So let's make a little bit of room over here so we can set the text for the new text item. So drag in our text save game name and drag off here, set the text. So this upper branch is if we actually don't have a profile in this slot. So it's an empty profile. So I'm also going to leave the text empty so you simply don't see it. And then for the lower branch, we're going to copy and paste this and make sure we hook it up. And then we can simply get the save game name from our player profile structure. So make sure you get the save game name and not the player name. The player name is already hooked up. Hook up the save game name to our new text item over here. And then we want to go a little bit further down the line. So for the lower branch, at the end we check if it's our active profile or not. And if it's our active profile, we're going to disable the button because we already activated it. So let's disconnect this branch. We want to make a few more checks in here. We're going to get a new branch. And we want to check our unique net ID again. So we can grab that from the player profile structure. So let's drag off here and we're going to do the equal with the 3 equals again. So equal exactly. And we can get our own unique Steam ID at the beginning from the game instance. So we already have a reference here. We can simply drag off the cast node and then get our unique net ID. So compare these over here. If this check returns true, so make sure you hook up the condition. If it's true, we're going to continue like we used to. So we're going to hook up the isActiveSlot branch. If this is false, we want to add a second check again. So again, we're going to add a branch and we need to check our isSteamConnected boolean again. So that's also on the game instance. So we can drag off the game instance again over here and then get our isSteamConnected boolean. Plug it in over here. So if Steam is not connected, then we want to be able to select all the profiles so we can still play offline. So if this is false, we're going to hook it up to the previous branch and simply continue like we used to. If Steam is connected and this is not our profile, then we're simply going to disable this button. So we can grab this button profile set is enabled and hook it up to the true pin. So this will make sure we can only select our own save games in the profile menu. So that should be good to go. Compile and save it. And the last thing we need to do is make a few changes in the main menu. So we're going to open our main menu widget. And first of all, I want to change the designer a little bit. So currently we're calling this our profiles and we are actually loading our Steam profile name, so it makes a little bit more sense to call this something like a save game or something. So I'm going to change all of the names over here and I'm simply going to say select save. And then over here, instead of profile, I'm going to use save. So reset save game and then create new save. And over here, it's the save game name or the save slot name. Yeah, that should work. And the rest of it should be pretty good. So you could obviously change it, the actual variable names as well if you want to. I'm not going to bother, that should be fine. So with this stuff set up, we want to change it a little bit over here. So currently we can only save 5 different profiles, and if you have maybe 2 or 3 different Steam accounts playing on this PC and each has one or two save games, then it's going to fill up those 5 slots pretty easily. So what we can do is replace the vertical box with a scroll box, so we can add more than just the 5 that fit in here, and then add a few slots to our save game in the game instance, and then we are able to save more save games. So we're gonna add a scroll box over here to the vertical box temporarily, so we can replace the references in the graph without breaking anything. So let's go to the panel section. Yes, the panel section, and in here we're gonna grab a scroll box and I'm gonna drop it inside of the vertical box. So I'm gonna give this the scroll box profiles name. And then enable is variable over here, compile and save. So let's go to the graph and we're simply going to search the references for our vertical box profile. So right click, find reference, and we want to change all of those to our new scroll box. So let's get rid of the vertical box in here and hook up our scroll box. And simply do that for all 5 of the references in this menu. So change the vert box for the scroll box over here as well. And then inside the update all profiles, we have 2 more references. There we go. So that's updated and good to go. We can go back into the designer. And then over here, if we actually select the vertical box and then right click, we can do replace with child. And if we do that, it should also keep the correct size and anchor. So right now we have the scroll box in place and got rid of the vertical box. And then there's one thing left to do inside of the graph. And that's on begin play, make sure that we set the multiplayer button to be enabled or not. So if we are not logged into Steam, we are going to disable the multiplayer button. So let's go to our event construct all the way at the top. And at the end, we actually have a branch over here that checks if we have an active profile index. So this will actually have two functionalities. We're going to make sure that we show our profile menu if we are not logged into Steam. So we can select an active profile or save game. And this is also going to make sure that we enable or disable the multiplayer button. So we're going to disconnect this condition over here, and we're going to grab an OR node. And then we can go to our game instance reference over here, and we can get our isSteamConnected boolean. So first we want to get a not bool and hook it up to our OR condition and then plug it back into the branch. So if we don't have an active profile selected or Steam is not connected, then we're going to show our profile menu. And then at the end over here, we want to grab our button for the multiplayer. So that's button MP game. And I'm gonna get a set is enabled node. And we want to hook it up to both of the branches. And then we can simply grab our isSteamConnected boolean and make sure that we plug it in over here. So don't grab the not bool, but grab the actual Steam boolean and plug it in directly to the isEnabled node, and that will make it enable and disable like it should. Okay, so I think we got everything out of the way, and we should be able to test this first functionality. So I'm going to be back in a second. We're going to see if it works. So before we hit play, I forgot a little something, so I did a quick test offline. We want to go into the shooter game instance, and I didn't connect this branch over here in the create new profile event. So if you made the same mistake, make sure you hook up the branch over here, otherwise it's not going to work, obviously. So that should be compiled and saved. And then we want to go to the project folder on your computer and actually get rid of the local SaveGames. So go to the root folder of the project, go to saved and then SaveGames. And in here you want to delete all of the SaveGames that are in here. So we made a significant change to how the player profile is working. And if we're going to load an old save game, it's not going to work. So make sure you get rid of all of the save games, and then we should be able to hit play and it should work. So let's have a little look. This takes a little bit longer than a viewport. Okay, so we have Steam active, so that part is working. Nothing is in here because this is the first time launching the game. So let's create a new save slot, click accept. So as you can see, it automatically gets my Steam name, which is GameDevRaw in this case, and then it will use the name that I typed in as the save game slot. So I can create multiple saves if I would like to, and have different levels of progression, but I can only select these save games if I am actually logged into my GameDevRaw account. So if I would log into another Steam account, I will present it with this menu again to create new save games, and I can only select the ones that belong to my Steam profile. So that part is working, and right now, well, there's not really that much left to test. What we could do is simply hook it up to a selected viewport. So as you can see, we are not connected to Steam right now, and we cannot load an active profile. So right now all of the available profiles will be selectable no matter what the Steam account is. And you can also create a new empty profile, but it won't actually save anything because there's no net ID connected to this profile. So you can still play with existing profiles and that progression will save. If you create a profile when you are not connected, then the profile will not save. So that's a little side note. You may want to make a little pop-up in here or something to clarify that. That's how it works. Okay, so we have our multiplayer button disabled, so that should be good as well. Now what you want to do is package the game and make sure that it works over Steam. So that's going to be all for today. In the next video, we're going to take a look at our friends list and joining a friend and sending invites. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like, and I'll be back soon for more. Talk to you later, guys. Bye bye.